Okay, welcome back to another vid. It's just a vlog vid, a chat vid. I fancied a chat and I thought I'm going to make a vid. It's been a couple of weeks and I guess it's too late or too early, being a Friday, to do a Wednesday week. So yeah, the Friday chat. The Friday chinwag. No, that sounds awful. It's just another vlog. Wednesday week on a Friday. Oh, that doesn't work. It's too much of a mouthful. It's just another vlog, like I say. So yeah, I've got a few things that I want to talk about. Obviously, this isn't scripted. Not Mr. Script. Touched upon that a few months ago. But I do have a few things written in the corner of the screen that I want to talk about. Because if I didn't write them down, I'd forget about it, obviously, and that would be an awful vid. So yeah, a number of topics, and also a shout out. Let's start with the shout out actually, because do you remember a time on YouTube? If you've been around a similar kind of time to I have, then you will remember this. But going back a good few years, if I or you or anybody shouted somebody out, what we invariably used to do was, shock horror, click on the link and check their channel. And then these days we just don't do it. We've stopped doing shout outs, and even on the rare occasions that we do, none of us really bother checking channels out. So in a way, this is kind of pointless, because none of you are going to do it, but do it. Do it on this occasion, because I've just recently discovered, like I'm Christopher Columbus, I've stumbled upon a channel that only has 85 subscribers. 85, come on. That's hardly any. And I've not watched everything, obviously. He's only been going a few months in the scheme of things. It looked like he started about 7 months ago. I've got his channel on the corner of the screen. I know you can't see it. But if I scroll down, yeah, it looks like he started about 7 months ago and then didn't do anything for a couple of months and then went away and has now come back these past couple of months, and he's quite consistent with his videos. And he's got some really good ones. I've only watched like half a dozen so far, but he's done a Commodore Amiga games collection, which I think, looking at this last, is it 5 or 6 parts? He's got an Atari ST collection, which is 1 or 2 parts. Amstrad collections, what do you call it, Spectrum, and Commodore 64. GX4000, which is a system I used to have back in 1990, and I love it. I want one back, maybe next year, but that's a topic maybe for another day. And yeah, so if you love your kind of the 8 and 16-bit era, especially of home computers, but I can see other stuff in the background there as well. Like in his shelves, he's got like, looks like Mega Drive and Sega Saturn, all that kind of stuff. So if you like retro games, check out the guy's channel. He's called MrBads Retro Games. I don't know him at all. At this point, I'll probably do it maybe later tonight. But at this point in time, I've not even left a comment on his vids. I've just watched a few. And yeah, 85 subscribers. So let's at least push it to 100. At least 100. Come on, don't embarrass me. Let's get it to 100 at the very least. So yeah, and we all know how difficult it is, don't we? You know, when we start a channel, it's impossible really without people's help to propel us to that next level. You know, I was very lucky in the sense, I mean, I've not got that many in the scheme of things, of course. Obviously, as it stands, I've got more than 85. But this is the kind of channel, this guy's putting a lot of hard work into his channel. And he could easily have more than me in the not too distant future, because I just kind of upload as and when. I'm pretty lazy, really. I sometimes go from being like very kind of consistent to not doing anything for a month or 2 or 3 weeks since my last vid. So, and I think that's a key, isn't it, when it comes to success on YouTube? Success, whatever you determine as success. You've got to be consistent. If you've not got that many subs, especially, and you just throw out a video once in a blue moon, you're not really going to take off. You've got to be consistent with uploads. You've got to interact. That's so crucial. So many people don't get that. You've got to get your name out there, and you've got to stick at it, you know. And you've got to get shout outs. You've got to have people giving you a helping hand along the way. I used to have it, you know, going back 5, 6, 7 years. A lot of people shouted me out, and it kind of pushed me on. It really helped with my subs. But like I say, that was back then, and we don't really shout out videos and channels these days, do we? For whatever reason. Maybe we're lazy. Maybe we just know that you're not going to do it. But make an exception. So again, if you like retro games, and especially from what I see so far, home computer stuff, 8 and 16-bit, check this guy's channel out. A link in the description box. And maybe at the end of the vid, if I remember, I'll remind you to check out the channel. If I forget, well, I guess I forget. So, it's funny though, because speaking of watching his vids and the Atari ST and the Amiga and all that kind of stuff, I have lately, this is the first topic, become absolutely re-obsessed with my Atari ST and the Amiga, but specifically right now, the Atari ST. You can see it just about up there in the top corner. The Atari STE Discovery Pack. That was the one I got back in 1991, and I absolutely loved it. It took me ages to get this bloody pack back as well. Was it last year or the year before I finally grabbed it? I think it was, yeah, probably January, Christmas time. It was about a year ago, give or take. And I absolutely love it. It brings back so many memories. It's insane. But yeah, just of late, I've been playing loads of games. I put a picture up on Twitter today of just a small selection of the games that I've got on the Amiga and the ST. I might put a picture now, I might not, we'll see. I guess now I've said it, I've got to do it, haven't I? So I'll put that picture up now. But that's just a small selection, I've got so much more. Maybe not as much as this MrBads Retro Games, he appears to have a heck of a lot. But yeah, the collection is growing, and of course, whenever I personally, and maybe you're the same, whenever I get into one of these moods where I'm just obsessed with a system, or systems, Amiga and ST in this case, I just go on eBay, I hit eBay, and then I just watch a load of games, bid on a load of games, and then inevitably buy a load of games. So in the coming months, we're going to see a lot of Amiga and ST action on my pickup vids, because I've just become obsessed with it. I absolutely love it. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the Super Nintendo. Again, you can see some double stack games up there, and there's a few more knocking around over here that you can't see. And I've probably got 60 to 70 games, I think, PAL, that is. I've got a few American ones too. But yeah, 60 to 70 PAL Super Nintendo games that, you know, I'd say over the course of the last couple of years, I have been full on PAL Super Nintendo, almost tunnel vision, and I've been really enjoying it. I probably picked up my first PAL game, not including when I originally had a Super Nintendo back in 1992, but when I started to rebuy them, it's probably, I reckon it's pushing a decade when I bought my first one back. But it's especially been these past couple of years, I've been really heavily focused on PAL Super Nintendo. And don't get me wrong, you know, I'm absolutely loving it, I really am. But I do think hindsight's a great thing, you know, we all love the benefit of hindsight. But I'd say, looking at it now as we come towards the end of another year, bloody hell, it's really obvious to me that I've maybe focused too much on the SNES, and I've spent maybe too much money, maybe too much. And it's time, I think, to take stock, sit back, play the Super Nintendo games, which I've been doing anyway, but play them a lot more. And then, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to be buying them, but I'm going to slow down a little bit, slow down with the SNES. There's no point racing. It's not a race. It's not a rush. I can get them as and when I please. And yeah, just focus on other things, i.e. the Amiga and the ST, primarily, I think. But so I love the SNES, so don't get me wrong, it's not stopping. I will have another Super Nintendo pickup vid next month, and maybe every month I'll continue to do that. But it'll only be like, you know, 3 or 4 titles, if that. And of course, I'm not going to buy anything just for the sake of it. If I've got nothing to show, well, I'm not going to go out and buy something just for the sake of making a vid. So, yeah, the Super Nintendo games next year will probably slow down a little bit, but I'll still be buying them. I'm just going to be maybe more specific about what I want. And, yeah, I've just gone full on this past year or two especially, so that's that. So the SNES will take a bit of a backseat, but I will keep buying them, as I keep saying. But the Amiga and ST, I foresee, time will tell, but I foresee that being full on as well for a bit. And I absolutely love it. I mean, just a few games here that I've got, which I'm going to show you that I've been playing lately. Just a small selection. There's only 4 here. Well, technically 5, but I'll talk about that in another topic, kind of, in a second. So something like Emlyn Hughes International Soccer. Again, the glare, I say it in every vid. This, for me, personally, and obviously it comes down to memories. Clearly it does, and rose-tinted glasses and all the rest of it. But this, to me, is one of the best football games ever made. It's still so playable. It's a little bit slow, but not super slow. But I did watch someone, I can't remember the guy's name, but I think his real name's Nick. Is it Nin Jenkin or something like that? And he made a video about Emlyn Hughes International Soccer. I can't remember what system he was playing it on, because it came out on all the 8-bit and 16-bit computers. My initial memories go back to the Amstrad, and then through to the ST and the Amiga. But yeah, he didn't really like it, and there's a few kind of negative comments he got. Not in an argumentative way, but people basically saying, what are you talking about? This game's amazing. And I was one of those who said, mate, you need to give this another chance. This is what you haven't taken into consideration. I point A, B, C. Things he said that maybe weren't in the game, were in the game. He just hadn't played it enough. So I wasn't having a go. It was a good video he made, but I did disagree with the fact that he didn't like it. For me, this is really good. But again, is it the memories? Is it the rose-tinted glasses and the nostalgia? Nostalgia overload? It could well be. So yeah, really, really good game. And just so many memories. Emily Hughes International Soccer, a brilliant game. The other one I've been playing, I was on this yesterday, so this is very fresh in the mind. It's Xenon 2 Mega Blast. Again, this one's on the ST. It's so good. The music is brilliant. The music on this one, shock horror, is better, the menu music anyway, than the Amiga. Because it's a slightly different mix. It's much better. I know you think I'm lying or I'm tripping. I'm not. It is better. But I think the Amiga has in-game music, and I don't think this one does. Or if it does, it's kind of the typical ST kind of blip kind of noises. But I stand corrected on that one. Even though it was only yesterday, and I said it's fresh in the mind, I can't even remember. But the intro music is absolutely amazing on the ST and the Amiga. So it's basically just a vertical shooter, essentially. Really, really good. And honestly, I went into this, I think it's at the end of the first level, there's this alien store owner, if you like, where you can upgrade and you can buy weapons. And I spent some of my money that I'd earned in-game, of course, during the first level. And I bought loads of these powerful weapons. And when the level restarted after I'd come out of the shop, the ship that I was controlling was so powerful, and there was bloody lasers and stuff flying everywhere. It was so exaggerated, it was ridiculous, but it felt so badass. Honestly, it felt amazing, like just obliterating everything on the screen. And it only lasted like a certain amount of time. But while I was kind of in control of it, it was like I was king. I was just destroying everything. It's an amazing game. I absolutely love it. So, yeah, this one's on the Amiga. Such a nostalgic game as well. Switchblade 2. So kind of like a side-scrolling shooter, cross-platformer. And, yeah, just brilliant. I love the first one, which I played, I think it would have been back on the Amstrad, back in the 80s and the very, very early 90s, i.e. 1990. But, yeah, really, really liked it, as you can see there. Do you need to see that? Commodore Amiga? There you go. And I love the colour of the box as well, and the artwork. Again, so nostalgic. I just remember seeing these covers, you know, in things like C&VG and the One Amiga, the One ST, ST format, Amiga format. Games X, of course, classic magazine, which I occasionally cover. I need to do another one very, very soon. And then last but not least, that I've been playing recently, is Blood Money. Again, really, really good. The artwork's fantastic. These Signosis box art, honestly, they're brilliant. They're really, really good. So, yeah, I'm absolutely loving the Amiga and the Atari ST. And this game, by the way, again, it's another kind of vertical shooter. Well, horizontal shooter, really. And if you can see the back there, it looks really, really good. Really, really vibrant. And the intro to the Amiga version is better in the sense that there's more to it. But I'd say the music in the ST version, even though it suffers in terms of quality, it's much more atmospheric. I think, personally, it suits the ST more, the way it kind of does it. It's very, very good. So, Blood Money, an absolutely brilliant game. There's loads more that I'm playing right now, but really those are the 4 that I've had maximum play over the course of the last kind of few days, give or take. So I'm really into the ST, really into the Amiga, and yeah, I really genuinely, as of next year, I can definitely see myself getting into them like never before. So I'm going to stick on the ST and the Amiga subject for another 2 subjects, really. And the next one I want to talk about, very briefly, again, I've done zero research, not that I really need to do research, but I've not really thought, I guess, about what I wanted to say. Maybe that's the best way to phrase it. So we're just going to go with it. No script, of course, like I say, so we'll just go with the flow. So Pete Snestastic made a video 2-3 weeks back, and it was about piracy. Piracy on the, predominantly the Amiga, the ST, but 8-bit as well. But on any system, really. He was kind of posing the question. It's interesting with Pete because I think it's probably about 3 or 4 months ago, maybe not that long, but maybe around about that time. And we talk, you know, quite regularly on Twitter. And Pete said, I've got this idea for a video, but I'm not sure it'll take off. He said, I'm not sure people will be interested. I said, what is it? He said, piracy. I said, do it. What are you waiting for? Do the video. People will care because it's nostalgic. It's retro gaming. Everyone pretty much loves their retro games. And most people in or around our age, in fact, of any age really, I mean, maybe up until a point, will have experience with copied games. So it's going to appeal to a lot of people. And I remember saying to him, not in an arrogant way, it was kind of a jovial, in jest way. I said, Pete, how often am I wrong? Which isn't very often. Sometimes I am, but not. And he was like, good point. Good point, Alex. I'll upload the vid. And of course he uploaded it and it got a really good reception. Of course it did, because it's retro games, like I say. People care. So Pete, stop doubting yourself. Make more videos like that. And you don't have to run it by me, obviously. You know, if you've got an idea, go with it. Just go, what's the worst that can happen? People don't watch it. People don't really comment. So what? Just then you know not to do that kind of thing again. Don't worry about what other people think. As long as you're not going to be all out offensive, you know, which I don't think I've ever been, not deliberately on my channel anyway, then people are going to enjoy it, I guess, maybe. But I found it a really interesting topic as well, because like I say, I'm kind of that age where for me, having copied games on the predominantly the Atari ST and the Amiga, it was rife. Everybody did it. Although the funny thing is, after reading a few comments on Pete's vid, in the description box where you guys leave comments, that's kind of how it works. Hopefully that's how it's going to work for this one as well. And you can interact and all that kind of stuff. I was surprised by how many people said they didn't, well, I think there's like 2. But even that surprised me. 2 people said they didn't ever experience copied games. They didn't do it themselves. They didn't know anybody who did it. I was like, what? I didn't know anybody who didn't do it. Everybody did it. It was just the way of the world. In fact, I've got a few here, like a big stack of copied games, just for, it's a prop, I guess. All these games here, and then there's another bundle here. I've got loads on the Amiga and the ST, and some classic games. Golden Axe. Can you see that there? You probably can't because of the lighting. Golden Axe there. Supercars 2, which is brilliant. I've got the actual real game, but Final Blow. That's not a sequel to Bust Up, if you watched my diary vid. That's a boxing game, honestly. Take my word for it, it's a boxing game. I played it the other day, actually, and I did play it back in the day, of course, but I always wanted to get, and now will get, the boxed version of Final Blow. I remember looking at it in the magazines, and it looked amazing. The sprites are really, really big. They take up most of the screen. And I really wanted to get it. Now, as a game, it's all right. It's not amazing, but I still want to get it. Italy 1990 from the World Cup, which I've got the physical version of. Kickoff, Final Whistle, Data Disc, Rainbow Islands, Vroom, if anyone remembers that. The list goes on. But the point is, yeah, basically, I was obsessed with copying games because they were really, for the most part, quite easy to do. I mean, latterly, what you'd start to get is you'd get like copyright protection sheets or manuals or protection wheels. And if it was like a manual, for example, when you load up the disc, it would say, go to page 45, paragraph 3, line 7, word 2. And then you'd type that word into the computer and then you'd play the game. But all you technically had to do was just photocopy the manual. That's all you had to do, and then you basically got the game. If it was a copyright wheel, I guess it was that little bit harder to do. But on top of that, you had the cracks, the copied games like this. This wasn't just a case of me just copying the disc. These games were like crack teams. You had like Medway Brothers, the Pompey Pirates were another one, Fusion. All these crack teams who were renowned back in the day, for copying games immediately as soon as they became available in the shops. They'd copy these games and they'd put them out there. They'd probably sell them or give them away for free, whatever it was. And so they were widespread. They were circulating everywhere. So it was impossible in my circles anyway not to have copied games. And I remember on the 8-bit systems as well, it was a little bit harder in a sense. I don't know why, because technically sometimes it works. What I'd do is I'd have my double-decked kind of tape recorder. And of course, in one of them, one of the tape recorder things, I'd put the original cassette and I'd press like play or whatever it was. And then in the other one, I'd put a blank one in and then you'd hold down play and record. And then in theory, it would just record like both sides. And sometimes the game worked, the copied version cassette, it would work, but other times it wouldn't. So I don't know if they would put some kind of copyright thing in the cassette. I've never explored how that worked. But I personally found it harder to copy cassettes. But discs, there was Xcopy was big at the time, and there was a whole host of copying programs which really did the trick. And that's, yeah, it was widespread in my experiences. Everybody did it. But a couple of things that I'll say on this, because it made me laugh, because I remember back in the early 90s, and I can't remember what magazine it was, but there was a magazine in there, there was an advert in the back of a magazine, and there was this guy, essentially, and he was selling copied discs. Now, he couldn't say that as so much, those words, in the advert, because it would get taken down. So it was something along the lines of, if you want the latest games, £2.50 each, or something like that, send a self-addressed envelope to this address, and he'll send you like a little list of what he's got. So I remember seeing this back in like sort of 1991, give or take, 92 maybe, and sent off a stamped addressed envelope and said, right, basically send me a list of what you got on the ST and the Amiga. And then a few days or a week or so later, he sends back a list, like just a photocopy essentially. And he was all the games, basically all the games that had just come out, as well as all the other ones on the Amiga and on the ST. And he was basically offering them on a single disc, or some would have multiple discs, of course, if they were big games. And like £2.50 for one disc, and then for every additional disc, maybe like an extra £1 or whatever it was. And the idea is you'd then send a cheque. I was too young, of course, being a minor, so I'd ask my mum to send a cheque to this guy, and I'd give her like my pocket money maybe, or paper round money, whatever it was. And then we'd send the cheque off to this guy, and then he'd get it, and then he'd make these blank discs, or he'd have a blank disc, he'd copy the game onto it, send them back to me with an updated list of all these latest releases, and rinse and repeat. And if I wanted to buy more, then I could. And if I didn't buy any, I think every month he'd kind of like send me an updated catalogue, because I got into like the database of people that obviously he was dealing with. And I specifically, like it was yesterday, it was so bizarre, and it would have been about 91, 92, and I was on the bus with my friend, and just before we left to go into town, into Poole or Bournemouth, wherever it would have been, I, for whatever reason, maybe it was because obviously in the UK, unless things have changed in the last decade, then the mail, the post, generally arrives in the morning. Over here in America, at least in California, it arrives in mid to late afternoon, which is really annoying. I'd rather it arrived in the morning. So picture the scene, back in 91, 92, it was in the morning, I think it was a Saturday, it would have been around about sort of 9 o'clock. We were on our way out, and the postman arrived just as we were on our way out, me and a friend of mine, to get the bus to town. I guess my mum was at work, my dad was at work, whatever. Anyway, so the postman's arriving, so we take a few things off him and leave it all indoors. But I noticed that was a few discs had arrived, the discs that I'd ordered from this guy. So I took it with me so me and my friend could open it on the bus. So again, I can picture it in my mind, the exact place where we were, the exact bus stop. And it's so weird how you remember certain stuff. And I remember opening it up and seeing the discs that I'd bought. Now, I can't remember the exact games I bought, but I remember the letter, the accompanying letter that the guy had sent. And it went something along the lines of, because he'd been rumbled. What had happened is he'd been rumbled by the police, this guy. It must have, because he was running scared. And he said, from now on, in this letter, he said, from now on, please don't address any checks to this old name, whatever it was. He said, from this moment onwards, he said, to stop me from getting into trouble, please send all your checks and address them to Bob Quick. It's such a distinguished name. Not distinguished. What's the word I'm looking for? What's the word? Not distinguished. Kind of. It's such a highly obvious, a strange name. It just sticks out like a sore thumb, basically. What's the word? Not distinguished. It's something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, it sticks out like such a sore thumb, Bob Quick, that I've always remembered it. So from that moment onwards, all checks that we sent to him had to be addressed to Bob Quick. It was just really, really bizarre. And then I think about 6 months later, another letter arrived from him with my latest order. And he was like, oh, actually, can you change it to something else, like Steve Smith, whatever it would have been. So this guy was obviously on the run, and every few months he'd change his name. Maybe not legally, but in terms of the checks arriving. But I'm thinking about, how would that work? Because if the checks were addressed to someone else, unless it was a friend of his, and he was giving them to his friend, I don't know, it was obviously some elaborate little scam thing, well, not scam, because it was legit, but an elaborate little program, I guess, an underground, shady shenanigans business that he had going. But I was helping funding it, which is obviously highly illegal. And I'd give all these details to my friends as well, and they'd give me some money sometimes. And of course, I'm not going to lie, sometimes what would happen... Sorry, I've been looking down there, by the way, and I've just realised I should really be looking up there. But sometimes what would happen is I'd say to my friends, I'd say, oh, I can get that latest game, you know, and they'd be like, how much? And I'd be like, well, a fiver. Now, it cost me £2.50. But they'd give me a fiver, and then I'd be quids in, and then they'd get the game so they're happy. Everyone's a winner. Now, I wouldn't do it to my true friends. I'd basically just do it to, like, the next batch on. You know, the ones that you're kind of friendly with, friends of friends, maybe. If it was proper friends, I'd probably do it for the same price. Maybe 50 pence more. Got to get something out of it, obviously. So that was... So, yeah, piracy was basically rife, and I partaked in it in terms of buying from other people and supplementing their illegal business. And of course, just doing it myself, just copying games, or trading them with friends, because... You know, again, 1991, I was 13. I'd turned 13 during 1991. Where was I going to afford the full price 25 quid games? I couldn't do it. It was ridiculous. Where was I getting the money from? I had pocket money, I had a paper round. I couldn't afford all those. I'd have to save up for them. So, yeah, of course, copied games. Most of us did it. And the last thing I'll say on this one, as I destroy everything around me, I've got a picture of it here. If anyone remembers, and I'll put a few pictures up on the screen for you to either see for the first time now or to refamiliarise yourself with the memories. But there used to be something called FAST, and it was called the Federation Against Software Theft. And these cartoons would be in the back of magazines. Again, so C&VG, Amiga format, ST format, the One Amiga, whatever it would have been from back in that era. And it was essentially a cartoon series where a guy or some friends would discover this particular person, this unscrupulous character who was selling, Bob Quick, who was selling illegal copied games, essentially. And fast, what they would do is offer a reward. In this case here, or the one I'm looking at right now, £1,000. But it varied. I think 500 was on another, and all the rest of it. So basically, what would happen is, in theory, what they wanted you to do, if you knew somebody who was dealing with copied games, you'd call fast, and then if they were rumbled, you would then get a reward. Really, when I think about it, I should have rumbled Bob Quick. I could have got £1,000. I remember thinking about it, you know, I'm not even joking, I remember thinking about doing it with a couple of my friends, thinking, I tell you what, we could split it 50-50, get 500 quid each here. As a 13, 14-year-old, it'd be amazing. But we didn't do it. I guess it was a case of maybe we just didn't want to get involved, or maybe more importantly, it would stop us getting our copied games. So, you know, why would we want to do that? Yeah, we'd get some money, but we'd stop getting copied games. So I guess we just continued knowingly to support a pirate, an illegal one, obviously, at that. But yeah, I really vividly remember those cartoons and reading them. They were a bit cheesy, of course. Did anyone actually ring fast? Did you really? Maybe one or two did, but yeah, I'm not going to lie, I thought about it, but I didn't actually do it. So that made me laugh, just seeing those cartoons again for the first time for many, many years. Something that Pete didn't mention on his vid. I don't know if it's because he didn't remember them, or maybe just forgot about them, or what. But that's that. Let me just, there we go, bring that back up. So yeah, the last thing I'm going to talk about when it comes to the ST and the Amiga in this is an experience I've had recently on eBay. Oh, good God. Always an experience on eBay to talk about, isn't there? So there's a game that I've bought. I'm not going to say what it is because I'll save it for a pickup vid, and it's on the Atari ST. The Amiga version's available as well, but I've just picked up on the ST. No real reason. I kind of interchange a little bit. Even though technically speaking, my personal nostalgia is with the ST over the Amiga, just because I had one before I had an Amiga. I love the Amiga as well, but it's, I guess, because I had the ST first, maybe most games I prefer on the ST, but it doesn't matter. I don't really care anymore. I used to, now I don't. I just, whatever it is, whatever's the cheapest, or whatever's the one which is available at that moment in time is the one I'll get. So, yeah, I picked this particular game up on the Atari ST. It's due to arrive, I think, next week. So as and when it does, maybe next month, for a Christmas pickup vid, I'll have it on that one. But there was one copy available, because it's quite a hard to get hold of game. I noticed on the sold listings, always check the sold listings, by the way. That's a really good gauge as to what things go for, of course. It's not always accurate, because people can get into bidding wars, and the prices can be exaggerated. But it's a good little rough guide to use. So there was one copy had sold of this game quite recently, and it went for around about 55 quid, and it had over 20 bids. So clearly it's a game which is in demand. 20 odd bids, 55 quid from like a standard auction starting at 99 pence. And so I thought, right, so it's worth around about that money. Now, there wasn't any, at the time of me looking, any copies available on eBay UK or in America. I didn't think there'd be any in America anyway, obviously given the lack of popularity of the ST and the Amiga in the States compared to the UK and Europe. So it was really, really hard to get this game on eBay UK, apart from that one which had just sold for 50 odd quid. But I did see one copy, well, kind of two, from the same seller. It was a little bit devious. From one copy or two, well, it was essentially one, let me explain, from a guy in France, okay? So what he'd done is he'd listed this game individually, fine, okay, but he'd also listed this same game in a big bundle of games, because you could clearly see it in the picture. And I thought, well, that's a bit sneaky. I hope what's not going to happen is I'm going to buy this single version, and then he's going to try and sell two, because I didn't think he'd have two. That's quite unusual. Now, to be fair, what ultimately ended up happening was I bought the single game off him, and then what he did is he went back, even though it's in French, I kind of, you know, used my little bit of French knowledge, coupled with Google Translation, and could figure out what he was saying. And basically he'd gone back into his original listing, where he was listing this one game with all the others, and he used the word in this particular game, which I'm not going to mention, is no longer for sale because he's sold it elsewhere. So fair enough. So I thought, I'm glad he's done that. It kind of proves there's no shady business going on. But what annoyed me, it really annoyed me about this, so there it was, and I buy it now. It'd just recently been listed for a few hours, and he wanted 50 quid for it, with shipping, which I think was like 10 euros, which I can't remember, which may be like $15 off the top of my head. So $65 all in, which is, 65 quid all in, let's just say, which is about sort of $75. So it's a fair bit of money for one Atari ST game. But I thought, fair enough, it obviously is worth that money because of the auction that I just sold that I told you about, which went for over 50 quid with over 20 bids. So I used to buy it now, and it was late at night, US time, and I thought, good, I'm really pleased to get that game. It's cost a lot of money, but I really want it. It looks so, so good. I had heard of it before, just never to my knowledge played it. So I thought, this is the time where I'm going to buy it. So I did. I bought it. Went to bed, got up the next day, and I had an email from the seller. And it was in kind of broken English. I'm not having a go because my French isn't very good. But I could still understand what he was saying, so it's not a problem. And he said, basically, he said, oh, thanks for the bid on the game I'm not going to mention right now, but I will next month. He said, but the thing is, it actually costs more to ship to America. It's an extra €5 or something. I thought, oh, for God's sake. So I thought, okay, so I'll just send you another $5 or €5, whatever it is, $10 maybe, the equivalent, on through via PayPal. No big deal. But no, what he'd actually done is he'd refunded me. He'd refunded it me, and he'd relisted the item. So therefore, leaving it open for anybody else to buy while I was in bed, like for the last sort of 7 or 8 hours. So anyone could have nipped in there and got this really desirable, sought-after game, which really frustrated me. But anyway, thankfully, no one did bid on it. So I managed to get in there and rebuy it, and with the higher postage, all for the sake of an extra $5 or $10. I thought, come on, mate, is this really necessary? It just seemed a bit silly. You could have just asked me to pay an extra $10 or something, and I would have done it, even if it was a bit frustrating. So I did that, and I thought, right, great, happy with it. 4 or 5 days later, he went, oh, thank you for the payment, I've received it, and I'll send it on the 29th. Now, we're still nowhere near the 29th at the time I'm making this vid. And I was reading it, I think, the 29th? Are you joking? So I sent him a message, I went, mate, the 29th, that's ages. By the time I get it, it's going to be to mid-December, and it'll be well over a month since I bought it. Can you do something about this? And he's replying back, again, in his broken kind of English. And he's like, oh, but the thing is, he said, I can't, because PayPal is recommending that I wait until the 29th. And I'm like, mate, come on. And it's ridiculous, because by this point, I got so annoyed, not so much with him, but the situation, that I resorted to using Google Translator, or translation, as my actual form of communication. I wasn't even typing in English. I was typing the English into Google to get the French, and then copying that French message into eBay so he could see exactly what I was trying to say, because I didn't want him to get it wrong. I wanted him to know that I was a little bit frustrated. Now, I wasn't angry as such with him. I wasn't being rude, but I said to him, look, mate, I said, I've been on eBay for over 10 years. I've got over 2,500 feedback. It's 100%. Come on, please. Let's use a little bit of like good old-fashioned human trust. I remember saying something like that. I said, you've got to believe me on this one. I can't wait until mid-December to get this game. That's not fair. I've given you the money now. Anyway, long story short, I've still not got it, of course, because it was just a few days ago. But he did send a confirmation email with the shipping to say that it had been sent, basically. And then I felt a bit guilty. But hopefully he can see my feedback. He can see that the fact that I've paid and I've been on eBay a long, long time. And hopefully, he kind of thought about it and went, you know what? Yeah, I will send it. It is a bit ridiculous to keep it for a month, basically, until sending it. But so that was really, really frustrating, that kind of brief experience, that brief exchange we had. Even though we didn't get personal with each other, I knew what he was saying and I did have sympathy. But it was a little bit ridiculous to wait that long. So it looks, touch wood, it looks as if it's basically going to arrive within the next kind of week or so, which is good. So as and when it does, I'll show it on a pickups vid, and I'm really, really pleased to get it. I really want to talk about it, what game it is, but I'm not going to. We'll save it for next month. Or later this month, whenever it may be. So that's that. Really pleased to get it. But just, again, eBay, there's always an experience, isn't there, on eBay? Always something. If it's not someone selling something at a stupidly exaggerated price, it's someone not sending something, it's somebody not describing it properly, where they advertise it as mint and it isn't. I had the same thing happen to me with Zelda on the SNES, where I paid way over the odds. Way over the odds. Because the guy went, oh, it's mint, the best example you'll ever see. And when it arrived, I moaned about this a couple of months back, I think, when I showed it on camera. And when it arrived, it wasn't bad, it wasn't knackered, but it wasn't mint. There was a few little dents in it, and really, I overpaid by about 50 quid on that thing, to be perfectly honest. But I've got it now, whatever, I don't mind. It is in good condition. It's in very good condition. It just isn't mint like he said it was. So, but that's that. But the whole thing makes me laugh about, and I'll briefly touch upon this because I know I talked about this about a year or two ago, again on the ST and the Amiga. But sometimes, just because something is listed for something on eBay, it doesn't mean to say it's worth it. Now, here's a great example. The famous Five on a Treasure Island, Enid Blyton, a book which you probably read, maybe as kids, or obviously a lot of people did. It's a very popular one. Enid Blyton is a famous writer. Famous Five on a Treasure Island is basically a graphic text adventure. So there's pictures on the back of like a cottage, there's a train station and a ship, like a shipwreck there. And this is the kind of game, a graphic adventure, where you basically use the keyboard and the mouse, but predominantly the keyboard, to type things like walk north, walk east, talk to so-and-so, give so-and-so, examine this, examine the other. It's an adventure game. It's text-heavy with the occasional picture. It's, for whatever reason, genuinely a rare game to find. I don't know why that is. But in the scheme of things, how many people are looking to buy this game? Now, I was, and if you go back, just simply because I had it back in the early 90s, so I wanted to rebuy it. But on eBay, I remember looking about, I don't know, about 5 years ago, maybe a bit more, maybe 10 years ago, back in the kind of infancy of eBay. And there was one copy, and it was about, it's a bit less than 10 years actually, maybe 7 years ago. Like I say, I've told this story before, so I'll sum it up quite quickly. But there was one copy of this game being sold on eBay UK, or just eBay full stop. And the guy was selling it for 200 quid. Buy it now. And I thought, you must be joking. So I sent him a message and I went, 200 quid? I said, is that a typo? Did you mean like 2 quid or 20 quid? And I was being really facetious because I was really annoyed. The fact that I really wanted this game and there was only one on eBay and he was asking this ridiculous price. And then I felt guilty. I've got to know this seller quite a bit actually. Well, a tiny bit through the years. And he is a nice guy. And I felt guilty at the time because he replied back with a really nice message. He was like, oh, hi, Alex. He said, yeah, he said, the thing is, it is a lot of money, obviously. But he said, but it is worth it. He said, I sold another copy of that same game last year for 250 quid with a copy of the book of Five on Treasure Island, or Five on a Treasure Island. He said, so it's worth it. He said, I know it doesn't seem it, but it really is. And I thought, oh, for God's sake. So, okay, what can you do? This is a guy who knows what he's selling, and it is what it is. So that was that. But there was no way I was paying 200. But what I had kind of resigned myself to doing was the fact that eventually I probably would have to pay around about 80 or 100 quid because, well, you know, he was asking for 200. So it's probably, you know, if I get one on a standard auction, I'd probably be paying about 100 quid. I'd pretty much resigned myself to that. And then fast forward a few years, every now and again, once in a blue moon, maybe once every month or two, I would have a look. And I would never see one copy of this game. It wouldn't be on current listings. It wouldn't be on sold listings. I couldn't see the bloody thing anywhere. And then one day, lo and behold, this game comes up on a standard auction with a 99 pence starting price. And I thought, oh, bloody hell. But not for 1 second did I think I was going to get this game for like 1 quid. Which I didn't, by the way, but not much more. But I had resigned myself to the fact that a lot of people are going to bid, and it's probably going to be around about 100. So, long story short, I put in one bid, and I was the highest bidder. But I wasn't getting excited because, like I said, I was expecting this flurry of action and activity right at the end of the auction. So I put in a bid, and I was the highest bidder at like £2.50 or something. And there was about 10 seconds left of the item of the auction before it ended. And I put in a bid of like 110 quid because I really wanted it. I thought it was worth it. And I know some people frown upon putting in bids at the last second. And for the life of me, I've no idea why. I don't know why. Because you want to win it. Yeah, you are being selfish. But you want to make sure you win the item. So to enhance your chances of getting it, put a bid in right at the last second. Don't show your cards early, showing your hand like an hour before. That's weird. I've always thought that's weird when people say it isn't, but I guess it's a game of opinions, isn't it? So for me, I am 100% going in there at the last minute because I want the game for me. Call me selfish, but we do, don't we? We want to own the game. We want to maximise our chances of getting it, so we go in there with a few seconds left. And I don't know why people don't do that, but okay, that's another discussion, isn't it, for another day. Anyway, so I put in a maximum bid of like 110 quid with 10 seconds left, and there was no other bid, and I won it for £2.50. £2.50! Unbelievable! And that guy had sold 2 copies, one for 250 quid and one for 200, and I got mine for £2.50. Now, I've not really checked that often because obviously I've got the game now, so there's no need for me to look. But curiosity got the better of me the other day, because I knew I was kind of going to make this vid eventually, even though it's a bit of an impromptu thing doing it on a Friday. But yeah, curiosity got the better of me, and I thought, let's just have a quick look before I make this vid. And there's, at the time of doing this vid anyway, there's one copy again on eBay. It's in Germany though, and the guy again is asking for 200 quid. So it genuinely is a really rare game. It's really hard to get, but it proves the point that if you're prepared to wait, then you will get it for a bargain, or you could possibly get it for a bargain. Don't necessarily think that just because a buy it now is there for 200 quid or more or whatever it is, don't think that's what you've got to pay. But of course, the big risk is if you choose not to pay the buy it now and you instead run the risk of finding it on a standard auction, then who knows when you're going to find it? Because I found one standard auction for this game in a decade. Now, do you really want to wait a decade to get it for £2.50? Or do you want to think, oh, bugger that, I'd rather just pay the buy it now? I guess it very much comes down to, well, I guess how much money you've got, but how much money you're prepared to pay. Do you really want it? Because, you know, yeah, technically, if you wanted this game, you could get it for £2.50 or less. But are you ever going to see it on a standard auction? It's the risk you want to play. You want to pay, isn't it, really? Or the game you want to play. It just depends, do you want to spend that kind of money? It's a risk. It's a game that you may or may not want to play. And I'm kind of on the fence. Part of me wants to wait when I see a game on with a really high buy it now, because I think, do I really want to pay 100 quid for that, 50 quid for that, 200 quid for it? Sometimes I'll just think, no, I'll wait until someone lists it on a standard auction for 99 pence. But as I say, I know I'm repeating myself, but who knows when that's going to be? That could be tomorrow. You don't know what other people are going to list, but it could be a decade from now. So is it worth it sometimes just paying the money and getting it out of the way? And yeah, in the future you may think, oh, bloody hell, I paid 100 quid for that. And then someone else just bought it on a standard auction for a fiver. But is it worth, you know, worrying about it? Who cares? If it's worth it to you, then pay it. And I guess it comes down to that price. I remember a good few years ago, someone said on like a forum, or maybe it was YouTube, I don't know what it was, but someone had these games and they were like, oh, it might be in Twitter or something. Someone said, oh, can you tell me how much these games are worth? And the first reply was, it's worth whatever you want it to be worth. Whatever that person who is wanting it is prepared to pay. And at the time, I didn't really agree with what he was saying. I thought, well, that's stupid, because it's clearly not worth that, because it might be worth 99 pence. But really, the more I think about it, what he was saying is true. A game, whatever it is, whatever the game is worth whatever you are prepared to pay. How much does it mean to you? How much do you want it? To me, that might be a quid. To you, it might hold so many memories, and you might want to pay 100 quid for it, or 200 quid, or 250 quid, like some maniac paid for that. But was it worth it to them? I'm guessing it was, because if it wasn't, well, they wouldn't have done it. So that kind of rings true, but I guess it's very much comes down to you as an individual and what you are prepared to pay. So bloody hell, this video's gone on for so long. I'm going to sum it up really quickly, talking about one more topic. I was going to talk about a few more things about what I'm playing and all that kind of stuff, but I'll save it. What I'm going to do tomorrow as well is I'm going to have a modern day pickup vid, modern gen, current gen. So if you like your current gen stuff, that'll be for you. If not, and you like your retro stuff, well, I guess you can wait till the next retro pickup vid, which I imagine will be the tail end of November or maybe December. But the last subject I want to talk about is this system that I've just picked up, and something which kind of annoyed me about it. It's the Project Scorpio edition of the Xbox One X. Now, ironically, behind me, of course, we've got the PlayStation 4 Pro playing its rival, Gran Turismo 5. So there's a spoiler alert. There's one game I've bought, which will be on my pickup vid tomorrow, or the day after, whenever I upload it. But the Xbox One X, so yeah, there's no denying it. At this moment in time, the Xbox One X is the most powerful console on the market. There's no denying it. That's a fact. Now, you can have your preference. You can prefer the PS4. That's fine, obviously. You can prefer the Sony PlayStation 4 exclusives. And to be honest, I probably do as well. You know, when I judge them side by side, yeah, I'd probably say Sony are better as well. Although, obviously, it is subjective. Do you like a Gears of War? Do you like Forza? Do you like Recall? Whatever else the Xbox has got. Or do you like things like Horizon Dawn? Is that what you call it? Not yet got it, but it looks really good, and I will get it soon. Do you prefer Gran Turismo? Do you prefer things like Killzone, Uncharted? what kind of thing do you prefer? I guess if you've got both systems, like I do, and I know a lot of others do, then you do get the best of both worlds. But yeah, I'd probably personally say Sony do edge it. When it comes to something like Gears of War, I loved Gears of War. Most people did. A lot of people did. Back when it came out, I'm talking about the 360. The first one especially, but the first two really, it was a big deal. And then since then, I've lost touch with it a little bit. Well, a lot. I don't think I've played the last 2 or 3. But the first one especially, first 2, was certainly the first Gears of War. I absolutely loved it. Brilliant, brilliant game. And the advert with Mad World, if you remember it playing in the background, the Tears for Fears cover, was really, really kind of haunting, but in a really enticing kind of way. It's a brilliant advert, a really, really good Xbox advert. But yeah, so it really does come down to what do you prefer. But there's no denying that the Xbox One X is a better system because technically speaking, it's the best. Factually, no arguing about that. What I'll say is when I put the Xbox One X on for the first time, it was Forza 7. And I instantly noticed, I didn't even have to have a comparison, I instantly noticed it was so bright, the colours were really vibrant, and so, yeah, it looked really, really nice. And I've noticed it looking really good on things like, well, I won't say that game actually, because that's going to be another one, which I'm going to show on a pickup vid tomorrow. But yeah, I've noticed it on another game. And yeah, so the Xbox One X is a really good system. Is it a step up? Well, of course, technically it is a step up, but is it enough of a step up? I think really it comes down to the fact of, do you have an Xbox One already or an Xbox One S? Are you that bothered? And maybe more crucially, do you have a 4K HDR television, which I do, behind me there? So if you do, and you're thinking about getting an Xbox One X or just an Xbox, in which case, yeah, get the Xbox One X. But if not, if you've not got a 4K HDR TV, what's the point? I know Microsoft to try and tell you that, oh, it'll look even better on a standard 1080p TV. Apparently it does look a little bit better, but you're not going to see the full benefits. So I'd say unless you've got a 4K HDR television, hold off. But I've got one, so I'm reaping the rewards of having that television, so I can get the absolute best picture possible on any games console right now. Can the PC do better? Well, of course it can. But for consoles, the Xbox One X is the way forward. And a lot of people, like I touched upon before, will say, oh yeah, but I'm holding off a little bit because the Sony PlayStation 4 exclusives are much better than the Xbox One. And as I say, I'd probably agree. But the thing to bear in mind is cross-platform games. So without patronising people, I'm sure you all know, but just in case you don't, by cross-platform, of course, what I mean is games that come out on both PlayStation and Xbox. So for cross-platform games, most of them, certainly from now onwards, are going to look better on the Xbox One X. Again, this is a fact because of the technology available that the X can do. So if you want your cross-platform games to look better, to look nicer, for your 360 games, or many of them, to look much better than the original games, they've got like a HD effect now. They look so much better than the 360 counterparts. For Xbox original games to look better, they've started to do that now, then the Xbox One X is a vital purchase if you like technology. If you want the best gaming console right now on the market, Xbox One X is for you. But the PlayStation 4 exclusives are better for most people, myself included. So if you can get both, if you've got an Xbox One X and a PlayStation 4 Pro, like I've got, and the Pro's the one in the background playing Gran Turismo 5, then you've got the best of both worlds. I just find it very hard now for me to get rid of the X. I really would find it difficult. Not impossible. I may get rid of it eventually. Well, eventually one day I will, of course, but not anytime soon. But for me personally, what's the point going back to an Xbox One, a standard one, or even an Xbox One X? Xbox One S, sorry. Bloody hell, so many different letters. Because it would be a step backwards. It's kind of like when you've experienced something. Once you've experienced something so good, why do you want to go back? It's kind of weird. And the X is better than the Pro, PlayStation 4. So it seems weird for me concentrating on the Sony PS4. So I'm going to concentrate on the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro. There's no going back now. I really do like them both. But the one thing that I'll say that really annoyed me, I'll hold the box up again pointlessly just for added effect. The one thing that annoyed me, oh, by the way, as well, with the Project Scorpio, this is somewhat limited. I don't think there's been any numbers released. as to how limited this is. The box is pretty kind of bland, but kind of cool as well. There's no actual picture of the system, and you can't quite see it right in the bottom corner there. Where is it? No, it's in the other. There it is. Bloody hell, I can't really do it. There it is. There it is. So, but yeah, you can't really see the detail of it, but it's got Project Scorpio written on that console. The controller's got it as well. It's quiet as well, that's also, and it's quite small. It's a little bit heavy, but it's really, really quiet, which is good. It's not as loud as my Xbox One that I've still got, the Blue Forza edition, because that had some kind of motorised sound in it, where every time you put it on and turn it off, it would be like a car, an engine starting and turning off. It's a little bit obnoxious, a little bit pretentious, but, you know, it is what it is. I like the colour of it. The blue was really, really nice. So I've still got that system. I guess I'm going to sell it. There's no point having, like I say, a standard Xbox One if I've got an Xbox One X. But yeah, so I don't know how many numbers for this Scorpio edition have been made available, but it is definitely a case that they've stopped making them, Microsoft. Whereas for the standard Xbox One X, they're going to keep making them, obviously. So it's going to be limited to quite a nice amount. But I just don't know how many. But I'm going to hazard a guess, a few 100,000 maybe, so, which is quite a lot still. But what annoyed me about this, and it shouldn't do really, because I understand why it happened, and I don't even hold it against the people who got it, because why would they turn it down? If someone offers them something, they're going to do it. But you may have seen, going back 2 or 3 weeks ago, a load of YouTubers, of course, with millions or hundreds of thousands of subs, they were getting their free Xbox One X's. And of course, they were coming on camera going, oh, guys, get the Xbox One X. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And they were getting all these free games and all this free swag and the free console itself. And it really annoyed me. And it shouldn't do. But like I said, nothing against them as people, because Microsoft, obviously, I know how it works. It's business. Microsoft want to get maximum exposure. Of course they do. So they're going to the big YouTubers who themselves are going to be exposing themselves, so to speak, to a lot of YouTubers, because they've got so many subscribers, a big subscriber base. So the thinking behind it is Microsoft go to these big YouTubers, say, hey, we'll give you a free Xbox One X, you talk about it on vid, and then all these other people, all the minions, we have to go out and we have to buy it, but if we want, of course. And I find that frustrating, really, because a lot of the time with these big YouTubers, none of which I'm subscribed to, but of course I catch the odd vid here and there, some of them don't even like the Xbox One, yet they put on this face where, oh guys, this is great, you've got to buy it. Well, you would say that because you've got it for nout. You've got it for free. Whereas someone like myself, I bought original Xboxes, brand new. So my money going to Microsoft, going to the Xbox brand. I bought Xbox 360s. I must have had about 6 of them bloody things over like a 10-year period. I bought, including the Xbox One X, 4 Xbox One X's. I had the original one that came out in late 2013 with the Kinect, and then the Kinect thing kind of annoyed me a little bit. So I didn't mind it on the 360, but on the Xbox One, I wasn't really having it. And it was a little bit redundant, so I got rid of that and got another Xbox One. And then, God knows how many, about a year or so later, I sold that. And then I specifically sold it because really the blue one was coming out, the blue limited edition one, which I've had, which I still have. But of course, I'm going to get rid of that one because the X has come out. So really, it sounds bad. What, you've got 4 Xbox Ones, or you've had 4 Xbox Ones, including the X. But when you break it down, it's not that bad, really. Because I got the blue one, which I really, really wanted, and I've got this one. So that's 2 straight away. And 3, the first one I bought for legitimate reasons, because I wanted the Xbox One X. So Xbox One. So really, there's just one Xbox One that I bought, which was a result of selling the other one. So it's not too bad, really. Anyway, there's no point justifying it, because it is what it is. But yeah, it really frustrated me. I've put all this money into the Xbox brand. I've spent thousands of pounds and dollars that I've pumped into Microsoft. And have they offered me a free Xbox One X? Did they? Hell, I I chose to, admittedly, pay $500. $500, all these YouTubers getting it for nothing. I don't know, there's something about it, it was like a little bit of a slap in the chops. It left a little bit of a bitter taste in the mouth. But at the same time, I know why they did it. Of course I do. It's business. I get it. But I'm just wondering, how hard could it have been for Microsoft to look back through their old their Xbox Gold followers, or whatever they are, subscribers. Like me, I've got Xbox Gold, if that's what you call it, I can't remember. And my achievements go back nearly 10 years. So they can see instantly, at the click of a button, that someone like me is still buying Xbox games, and I've been buying them for 10 years, and systems and consoles, all the rest of it. Why couldn't they, as a bit of loyalty, turn around, not just to me, this isn't about me, it could be you, someone who has been buying Microsoft stuff for years, and said, you know what, as a goodwill gesture, you know, let's send 100 free systems, 200, whatever it may be. But they didn't do that. And instead, and again, I understand why, but they capitalised on the popularity of a load of YouTubers with millions of subscribers in some cases. And I just found that a little bit, it left a bit of taste in the mouth, to the point that I've got to have a drink. I've got to have some water. So we're going to wrap this video up. It's pushing an hour, which is absolutely ridiculous. Let's just throw this in right at the end, because this will only take a couple of minutes. So it's really bad timing, because we've got Thanksgiving coming next week, and then we've got Christmas. So, but what I'm thinking, what I am going to do is, I hesitate to use the word diet, but I'm really going to focus on eating well. Junk food will be in moderation. Honestly, I'm at least a stone. You can't really see. I'm at least a stone, maybe two, overweight, and it's just too much. And, you know, I'd love to blame it on being in America. I mean, that's part of it, because over here, the portions of food just take the piss. They really do. They're double kind of what I ever had in the UK. And you get into that lifestyle, don't you? I've been here nearly 10 years now, so I've had 10 years of eating double the portions. And you start to feel it. It starts to have a knock-on effect. You start to get more sluggish in your behaviour, or just the way you're walking around. You feel it. You're carrying the weight. All sorts of other kind of health negatives, and you just think this isn't right. You know, so going forward, I wouldn't say as of now, so obviously I'm not that bothered about it, but as of soon, I'm definitely going to start watching what I'm eating. I really, really am. In fact, I've really already started cutting back in comparison to what I used to do. Every single day at work in the morning, before we started work, me and a guy from work, pretty much every day for 4 years, we would go into like the grocery store across the street, directly across the street from work, and we would buy a load of rubbish. Sometimes things like a sausage sandwich. Did I say sausage? Sausages. A sausage sandwich, and then like a pack of crisps for lunch, and maybe a pack of sweets to have at your desk while eating them. Maybe like a fizzy drink. And all sorts of rubbish, like a slice of pizza. And we'd do this almost every day. And then on the way home, I'd probably grab something else. It's so bad. And then I wonder why I put on like a stone or 2 stone weight and starting to feel really sluggish. And it's ridiculous. So that's got to stop. And of course, crucially, as you get older, and I'm 39, 40 next year. How did that happen? But we won't mention that again. Just pretend you didn't hear that. I know I look 40 with the old facial hair, but usually I scrub up quite well. And I think I do look quite young for my age. Without this kind of ages me a little bit. But anyway, whatever. It's just a number, is it? Does it really matter? No, it doesn't, is the truth of it. But the fact is, as you get older, joking aside, as you get older, it does become more dangerous. Of course it does. So whilst I'm in my 30s, I want to really start to make a difference. And, with me in life, generally speaking, this sounds a little bit deep, and I don't mean it to. It's just all in jest and stuff. But in life, I have always been someone who does things later. If you name it, whatever it is, I've either not done it and will do in the future, or it took me ages to do it. It doesn't matter what it is. Most people do something quite young when they're in their teens or their 20s or whatever it is. With me, I do it later. It's just the way I am. I think I'm just a bit lazy. So, I don't know why that is, but I'm not complaining, but I am a little bit late to the party when it comes to a lot of things. But anyway, that doesn't really make much sense. I didn't really elaborate on it, but just in general, you name it, like driving, a lot of people do it when they're young, and I was older. Getting married, I wasn't that old, I was like 30, but it's something people do when they're young. I always do things later. Looking after my body, healthy eating, which is what we're talking about here. A lot of people would have done it long before now. But for me, it's like, no, 39, 40. When I'm 40, from 40 onwards, that's it. I'm going to really watch what I'm eating and watch what I'm drinking. What I was thinking about doing ages ago, and I think I may have mentioned it, I was going to have some kind of vlog. I'm not going to do this, by the way. But I was thinking about having some kind of vlog and using the Wii Fit and then keep a track of my weight and I'd have it on video for people to see. I'm not obese, by the way. I don't want anyone to think that I'm off the scale. I'm not. It's just about a stone, maybe 2. But it's just a bigger picture of looking after myself and watching what I'm eating. I think it's important for me. Whether it is for you, well, that's up to you what you want to do. But yeah, I was thinking about doing those videos, and then I thought, well, that'd be a bit ridiculous. Because I have bought an exercise bike recently as well. I even thought of doing that, but how ridiculous would that be? That'll be me pedaling on an exercise bike, doing a vlog, completely out of breath, sweat kind of pouring down me. It would not be a pretty sight, so you wouldn't want to see that. But I guess I could do it for a laugh, a bit of maybe a test run kind of thing. We'll see. But anyway, we're going to wrap this up. I've not talked about as much as I wanted to, because I think I talked about some of the topics far too long. But it's getting another video out there, isn't it? You know, not that it's about, you know, quantity. It's all about quality, of course. But I haven't done a video for a couple of weeks. So if you like long videos, I guess this is one for you. If you don't, well, I guess you're not watching it now. So, yeah, please remember to check out that channel called MrBads Retro Games. Up-and-coming channel, 85 subscribers. Come on, seriously. 85 subscribers. The least you can do is just click on the channel and see what you think. If you like 16-bit and 8-bit computers, or just that retro scene, up into Mega Drive and Sega Saturn, Dreamcast maybe, that kind of thing, check it out. I think you'll like it. But yeah, you won't know unless you click on that link. How hard is that going to be? So please do that if you've got the time or if you've got the will, and subscribe. So until my next vid, which technically speaking I guess is going to be tomorrow, because I'm going to have a current gen pickup vid. Whether it's uploaded tomorrow or the day after, I guess will remain to be seen, but it'll be very, very soon. So until then, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.